I started realizing the fact that obsession where I transitioned from being a banker to creating banking software. There was a very low visibility, low quality. So that was an eye-opening opportunity for me, a deep knowledge about how the capital markets operated, which meant I had to go and learn the whole stockbroking and equity and derivatives trading and why it takes so long, who makes the decisions in the customer organization, any kind of a shortcuts to gain some quick insights. What are the kind of software we need? What is the kind of design approach that are required? So influence really doesn't come from the position or title. It comes from. And once you ask those questions, a lot of ideas faced rejections initially, and being a product professional is not your regular 9 to 5 job. It's not where you finish a task, mark it done, and move on. This job needs a bit of craziness. It needs an unexplainable drive. Some might even call it spiritual, some might call it madness, and it's definitely an emotional roller coaster. But underneath that chaos, there is a pattern, a set of qualities that hold you steady with everything else moving. Today, I want to demystify that. There are 4 qualitative elements that will never fail you as a product professional, whether you are a product manager or an engineering person. They are purposeful obsession, genuine curiosity, deep thinking work, and listen to influence. Obsession is the heartbeat of product work, but the right kind of obsession is a purposeful obsession. It is not about chasing features and title, it's about being consumed by the why. It's all about obsession with the problem you're solving and why you're solving. It's an obsession about the solution you are thinking and how are you going to solve that problem. It's obsession with the changing someone's way of life. It's changing your end user's life. And obsession with a visionary outcome. It's not an incremental thinking. So with that kind of a purposeful obsession, I would like to talk about some of my own obsessions that I have pursued over my 20 plus years of my career in product building. My very first obsession was being an accountant working in a bank, processing hundreds and hundreds of transactions every day. I started realizing the fact that instead of just being the person doing data entry work, even though in the name of a banker, I got obsessed with the idea of building better software to improve the lives of the bankers, all the accountants. So that was my first spark of an obsession, purposeful obsession of how I can build something meaningful for the community of finance professionals. So that was my first obsession where I transitioned from being a banker to creating banking software. That obsession led me to joining a stockbroking back office product company back in India. And that introduced me to the world of capital markets. And that's where my second obsession began, where I was intrigued by how the capital markets were operating in India back then, where the trading was happening semi-electronically, settlements were happening through multiple days, like week in terms of weeks and not in terms of days, whereas the US markets were settling in terms of T+1, T+3 kind of timelines. So I was intrigued by this problem of how we can really accelerate the whole trading and settlement of various capital market transactions, be it your equity or the derivatives. And that led me to build a lot of depth and knowledge and domain knowledge in the space of capital markets. So I got wedded to this problem of how the capital market transactions were being processed and what are all the bottlenecks, and within that bottlenecks, what are the opportunities here in terms of changing the game, the way the transactions would be settled. So that was my obsession as a part of that particular job role. Later on, as I switched jobs, I landed in at Oracle in their ERP product development, and I joined a product line which exactly represented my educational background, which is cost accounting application within their supply chain management application suite. And then I got obsessed with the whole problem space of manufacturing products, and how the cost of manufacturing was being captured, and the inefficiencies around the time by which the product teams were having an understanding of the margins and the true cost. So truly the problem there was a very low visibility, low quality of the product cost, that led many companies to really make simplifying assumptions about the product cost, which led to very suboptimal product decisions. So that was an eye-opening opportunity for me in terms of reimagining completely how product costing should be done in an ERP system. And I went very deep into the space of cost and management accounting. Later on, as I moved from that product line into an adjacent product line, I got an opportunity to work on a very complex but a very important strategic domain of intercompany. So when the goods move from one country to another country within a large manufacturing company, there are various compliance requirements, as well as management accounting and reporting requirements, as well as tax planning requirements. So all of those were kind of getting lost, competing with each other. So I took the opportunity to go and deep and demystify the whole intercompany space. And that was my another obsession. From core product costing, I was able to move into an adjacent space of intercompany accounting as another area where I was totally obsessed with. And then later on, as I shifted companies and then joined Oracle back, I joined a financial management suite of applications. That's where I was in charge of launching a brand new accounting application in cloud. And I saw opportunity for adoption of the product in new age gig economy companies. So gig economy companies were struggling at that time. They were growing like crazy, like 10x, 20x every 4-5 months. They were expanding across geographies. So that presented the problem of scaling their finance operations and accounting operations at rapid pace, matching with their business growth. And the complexity of their business models also meant the complex accounting requirements. So there was a gap between what the organizations were struggling with as problems and the solutions that were all there within my product that I was running, where nobody was connecting the dots and say, hey, you know what, that particular product is the right fit for your problem. So I was obsessed with pursuing relentlessly the fact that, hey, I see your problem. I have a product that exactly meets your requirements. And here you go. So that journey was so fascinating and interesting that I had to work through various internal stakeholders as well as the prospective customers in terms of evangelizing. So in this case, the obsession was taking an idea to the next level and executing on that idea with all the available solutions. But more recently, with all the Gen AI kind of evolution and the AI landscape completely changing, the whole SaaS product development itself was going through a rapid transformation. Last 1 year presented a lot of unlocks, technological unlocks, in terms of the kind of solutions and experiences we can build for various categories of the industries and back office functions. So in the area of accounting operations, which is my specialty, I clearly saw an opportunity for making a bigger leap in terms of how accounting departments can be run. So I was obsessed with that idea of how we can completely change the way the finance teams consume finance data, and then the finance team support the business divisions in terms of the daily decision making and actions through the whole reimagination of the accounting process. So I was obsessed with the problem of how I can reimagine the way accounting departments can work. And then most recently, for last year or so, I've also been obsessed with the idea of how I can help the product professionals in the product community, whether it's a product manager or engineers, to be successful in their product careers. whether you are a person entering the industry new or you are a person experienced professional who are looking to get into the next set of growth opportunities in your career, or you're someone who are looking to really break into starting your own product company and building it out. So quickly, please do check out my website, shamsproductlens.com. If you're interested in getting coached, feel free to sign up for a free assessment. And I'm looking forward to really helping the product community. Having a purposeful obsession is definitely a starting point. It really ignites the fire in you to build something very interesting. But however, in order for the purposeful obsession to get into the next phase, the next important quality is a genuine curiosity. Curiosity is how we evolve, but it must be truly deep and committed in terms of learning and developing a deeper understanding. So it's not about pretending to know, it's about wanting to learn deeply about the history of the problem and the evolution of the problem from different points in time. Learn about the people behind it. Who are all the people? And understand why a problem has evolved, how the people have played a role in that problem's evolution. And then go and understand the academia, the science, and the whole literature and discipline that explains it. And then most importantly, as you are working through this learning process, it's important to develop the habit of learning through deep listening, because a lot of this knowledge is going to be with the people who are actually in the middle of the problem. And it's important to build the curiosity as well as the skill of deep listening so that you can start developing insights about the problem. If I take my own purposeful obsessions that I had, the first one was solving the whole trading and settlement for a capital market. So that meant I had to build a deep knowledge about how the capital markets operated, which meant I had to go and learn the whole stockbroking and equity and derivatives trading. I invested myself in learning and building formal knowledge through my Chartered Financial Analyst certification. So that gave me very in-depth understanding of how the equities, derivatives, currency markets, commodities markets operate worldwide. Through my job, I had visited various stockbrokers in India, and through the process of interviewing and how the systems evolved and why the systems are in the state where it is at that time. And then I was also actively working with the other people in the organization who had built this whole current solutions a decade before this new whole electronic settlements, trading and settlements were happening. So they provided a very interesting historical perspective of like why it evolved and how people played a role in shaping solutions that existed at that point in time. So that's one kind of genuine curiosity, is like you really invest yourself in understanding that space so deep. Similarly, when I moved to Oracle, I repeated that pattern as a part of my journey with product costing reimagination. The next interest, the whole gig economy obsession that happened later on, one of the angles I really pursued deep was how B2B software is sold. What is a life cycle of sales in a B2B kind of a product company? I worked with various sales teams and participated in actual sales scenarios, pre-sales scenarios, conversations. It is not, the curiosity here was around understanding how companies sold B2B software and what are the various nitty-gritties involved and why it takes so long, who makes the decisions in the customer organization. So those are all part of building the curiosity around that whole gig economy space, because that's the market I wanted to solve for. Through this curiosity journey, I was able to build great insights, the various prospective customers. So bottom line, curiosity is where the dots start to connect. That's the point where various information that you have gathered starts to become insights. So you have obsessed with some problems, started to think about solutions, but then your genuine curiosity about the problems and solution led you to go deeper in understanding that whole space. And now we are able to connect the dots and then develop the key insights that you really need to have, irrespective of your role, whether you're a product manager or an engineer. A lot of times in product work, you are left alone. Your credibility is based on your clarity. that you build in your mind. The opportunities you get is based on the clarity you bring to the table. That's where the obsession and the curiosity now has to convert into deep work. So deep work is where you earn your clarity. It's not about endless meetings or any kind of a shortcuts to gain some quick insights. It's about sitting through the complexity. It's about just delving into the complexity, embracing complexity, and then starting to make sense out of that. Take any kind of a challenging scenario, plant it in your head. The way it works is there is an asynchronous thinking happening. So you planted something that you want to solve, and or you planted something that you want to build clarity on. So it's going to be in your mind continuously. Product work is not like a 9 to 5 job. Reason being that it's in your head. It got injected in your head and you are thinking about it continuously. The light bulb moments happen. The more deep you think, more opportunities are that you hit a light bulb moment. Typically, a deep work needs to go through a diagnosis of a current state with logic trees. You are going to ask so many whys. Why it's a particular problem is in a particular state, and then you go further 3-4 levels of why it really takes you to the bottom, and then you are in the process of finding what are the bottlenecks, what would unlock those bottlenecks, and then who are all the kind of people we need to solve this, what are the kind of software we need, what is the kind of design approach that are required, what kind of a concept that's going to create this new paradigm. Those are the kind of chain of thoughts that is involved in a deep work. Many of my deep work journeys have been did not follow a pattern. Essentially, it was like getting into a zone of a thought process. That zone of thought process for me was like I carry something that I need to solve or build clarity on in my mind for a few days. So I let that whole concept stay in the brain. I don't rush to solve it. I let it kind of brew in the mind behind the scenes. Different points in time during the day, I kind of get into that for a bit, think through it, build some notes for myself, and then there might be mini unlocks that are happening through that process, and then trying to validate that. So as you get an enlightening moment through this journey of deep work, it's important to validate that, because as you validate, like when you talk about it to your team members, to your customers or your any other stakeholders, it validates or invalidates. So the moment it invalidates, it gives you a new input. So it is that kind of a process where you are continuously indulging in it, but not literally in a locked time period. So it's going to be like spread over a period of time. You're thinking about it, and it's going to happen over that period of time. So deep work isn't fast, but it's the only way to create something timeless. Deep work gives you the opportunity to really build a long-term view, your own point of view, something that will stand the test of time, and something that will create some concepts that are strong, robust, and product worthy. Okay, now you had the obsession, genuine curiosity led to deep work. So you have a lot of clarity. All that is great, but in practice, in order for us to really make an impact in the product building, we need to develop a lot of influence without authority kind of skills. You are put in a lot of situation where somebody has to fund your idea, somebody has to approve the design, somebody has to adopt your product. So which means that you will have to find a way to influence your stakeholders. So influence doesn't come from a position or a title. Just because you are a head of a product does not mean the stakeholders will listen to you, or just because you are just a new product manager starting your product journey doesn't mean people will discount you because you are just an inexperienced person. So influence really doesn't come from the position or a title. It comes from quality of thought. It comes from the clarity that you hold. So true influence begins the moment you reflect or you showcase depth and quality in the thinking. But here is the thing, even though you might have the depth and quality in the thinking, in order for a person to influence another person, there's a lot of socio and psychological elements involved. So a true influence begins with active listening, because when you really listen, do a deep listening, you form questions that matter. First of all, you're allowing your stakeholder to have strong stake on the conversation, and by listening, you are able to understand the person where they're coming from, and then you are able to connect the clarity that you have with the response that you're getting from your stakeholder into high quality questions. And once you ask those questions, it will attract attention. So the bottom line of an influence is how efficient you are in gaining someone's attention. So, and that's where the leadership begins. So it's not from authority, it's from the insight, it's from the deep listening, and it's from the quality of interactions that you build with your stakeholder is how the influence happens. Another important dimension to the influence is culture. So culture of the organization and culture of the team is a very important factor in a very collaborative environment where the culture is giving opportunity for everyone in the room. The culture is all about the merit of the idea than who is saying it. All the principles of influence that we just spoke about is going to work wonders. It's going to have more faster results and both the short term and the long term. But in a culture where it's very top down, very typical in a large organization where a set of a few leaders are going to drive from the top the core strategy and some of the key decisions that are going to impact large number of teams. So their influence takes time. So the process of influencing in that kind of an environment is a very rough road. There will be short-term hits. There might be scenarios where the things that you propose, even though with high quality of clarity, may not be received properly. It might face short-term rejections. Over a period of time, the clarity in you still wins. So fast forward few months, few iterations, the various conversations, in spite of the hits and the rejections, product would have evolved to a point where it aligns with the clarity that you are building in your mind. So in that kind of a top-down environment, the real win-win situation is a long-term view and not a short-term at an individual conversation level view of influence. So in my own career, I've had at least 3 or 4 project scenarios where the product idea went through a lot of challenging situations before the ideal outcome happened. Right? For me, even though I had a lot of clarity, the influencing the stakeholders was a very intense exercise. And it does take a lot of toll in your kind of mind share and mind power. It kind of drains you out. But I think the most important quality there is to keep persisting, because the fact that you have to believe in the clarity you have built, you have to believe in your stakeholders that they will get it and then work through the process. So one of the product ideas that I had impacted about 12 product teams around the product I was kind of designing for, and it meant that I had to work with the product management and the engineering leaders of 12 products, so 12 times to 24 stakeholders, and it was a very challenging process. And early on, people would not even give you time for hearing your proposals. It started from that point to a point where the same set of stakeholders now are kind of appreciating the work that we did together, the outcomes that we have achieved, and still very proud of what has happened in the product. So main unlock that happened for me through the process of influence was 2 things. One, I did a lot of homework understanding the adjacent products. All the 12 products I learned completely in order to see where they are coming from. And then I also created win-win situations for those product teams in terms of explaining the broader outcomes and then what is the best outcome for each of those products would look like. And that gave the opportunity for those product leaders to really think about beyond being conservative of, hey, it's an impact. There's a lot of engineering work, there's a lot of customer impact and the like. So it's about giving space to the product teams. At the same time, trying to talk that language really helped me create the unlock. And there were many other occasions where, a lot of ideas faced rejections initially. And all through my experience, I've learned to be patient. I've learned to wait for a point where the critical decision-making stakeholders are getting to a consensus. And through that process, maybe there are out of, 100% of the way you had conceived about solving something, maybe there is only alignment about 50%. But stakeholders bring in a different angle to it. You should be ready to kind of hold on and not be too pushy about the exact thing that you really wanted to achieve. Over a period of time, stakeholders start to see the value of the full proposal and the acceptance will happen. So influence also takes time. So it's not about you speaking and trying to convince, and conversations happen, arguments happen, debates happen, and then you try to conclude. Sometimes you have to give it time. So over a period of time, as things evolve, understanding improves, the stakeholders might have their own light bulb moments, and things comes together, and end of the day, things happen the way you really want. And that's how I have seen many of my projects kind of starting in a very low acceptance rate to ending in a very really 90-95% state where the clarity that you had built and the solution that you thought about exactly matches with the product outcome. So one last mantra I would like to put it out there for the influence skill area is: influence grows when others see your thinking elevates their thinking. So that's where the unlock really happens, the magic happens. Now, having seen the four key elements of the purposeful obsession, genuine curiosity, deep work, and listening to influence. Now, let's look at some of the guardrails for the builder. Don't be obsessed with titles, be obsessed with impact. Don't be curious about what others think, focus on quality of work. Don't let your deep work turn into comparison, and don't use influence for short term gains. Build for the long run. To summarize, product career is not a typical career. It's a calling. It demands intensity, it demands emotions. It sometimes requires little madness. But if you anchor yourself on these four key elements, which is purposeful obsession, genuine curiosity, deep work, and listening to influence, you would not only end up building great products, you end up building yourself in that process. So, as a call for action, I request all the listeners to go and look back at your own journey and see how much you have been able to kind of get into these areas, and also look for areas where the opportunities where you can really invest in yourself to get into these four skill areas more deeper. Thanks again for watching this episode, and look forward for your comments and feedback. Talk to you soon.